So, as many of you guys know, because I've been covering this every single week, we are basically getting every single character before 2025 getting a rate up so that you can make them your grand servant. Now, obviously, we've seen how this works for, rulers and avengers and sabers and riders and all these other normal classes. But the one that a lot of us have been wondering about is, say, the beast class or the alter ego class. Well, we already got the alter ego class, but some of these smaller ones like Moon Cancer, right? Are they just going to drop two banners for Draco and Space Ereshkigal and call it a day? Well, we have the answer to how that's going to operate now, and I'm actually not a very big fan of it. And this is speaking as somebody that doesn't have to roll on either of these banners because I already have Draco, I've already got Space Ereshkigal, but my heart does go out for people that do not have these characters and want to acquire them because, let's be honest, these are some very, very, very popular characters, and they're being brought back around in probably the worst way possible. I mean, I think this also gets into the idea, especially for the Beast banners, of how hard they want to make these characters to pull and how much of a priority now it seems you have to give these characters whenever they do come out, because this is just how it's going to be moving forward. So as per usual, like the video, subscribe. I put these out every single day to make sure that you're informed on the goings on of the NA and JP side of things. Although JP right now, you'll notice I'm not covering a lot of it because I'm trying not to spoil too much of the story important bits. Although tomorrow I will just let you know we are going to be covering that suspicious individual that I'm not going to be naming, but you probably know, if you're in the know, what character that's going to be when they release. But let's just start diving into this and talking about what these banners look like. So the Beast one, this is probably the one, and even though we're going out of order, that everybody cares about the most. And the reason that this is kind of annoying is because they're just kind of throwing them all up at once. Now, it doesn't look like they're throwing them on the same banner, at least from what I've been able to gather. I think that would be the worst of all possible worlds if it was a double rate up of Draco and Space Ereshkigal, but do keep in mind that the way that they've kind of presented it is a little confusing. And it does kind of look like it could be both of them going on rate up at the same time. That's the worst, if that is actually how they decide to do it. I'm giving them a little bit of wiggle room here because I think if enough people complain, maybe they'll split them into two separate banners, but I highly doubt it. If you don't know why having both of them out on the same banner is worse than both of them being on separate rate ups, that's because the chance of getting one of them individually goes down because now they split the rate up. Normally pulling a 5-star character is like, what, like some lower than 1% chance, but whenever they're on rate up, it's like 0.893% or something goofy like that, right? It's functionally like 1% for the rate up character, and then everybody else they're just in the bins. They're just like 0.0%, right? You're not going to pull them, but you always seem to run into them whenever you're going for the actual targeted SSR. But whenever you have two SSRs or two 5-stars sharing the rate up, they individually become harder to pull because they're sharing that boosted percentage. It's not like they're both going to be at, like a 1.1% and then everything else is harder to pull. The two of them become harder to pull themselves. So if they do decide to go through with that and they do decide to put both of them on the same banner, the chances of you getting either Draco or Space Ereshkigal plummet dramatically because characters in this game, let's be honest, already kind of hard to pull. I mean, it's a gacha game in general. Going for the premium characters is always going to be a bit rough to say the least. But when you take two characters that are very rare and are simultaneously very popular and you stick them on the same banner, I think that's already a little bit devious. I mean, I already thought it was a bit annoying that they withheld the assassin banners for when they actually started Ordeal Call 4 because they know Polyanskaya is the only thing that can really compete with people's Saint Courts for, like, the new Megatron Jean or the other new characters who I will not name in this video. But it kind of makes sense. Delay the Berserker one because while the Berserkers are really good, you can go without them. Somebody you can't go without are the supports in this game. That's just kind of how things are designed. But this is where we're starting to get a little, I would say, extra greedy as we're starting to move closer to the anniversary months, especially 10th anniversary over here on JP. And that also means we're getting very close to things like summer. So not only is it an effort to throw out some very popular characters to drain your Saint Courts before anniversary, it's now more likely you're going to have to dump more Saint Courts into these banners because they're sharing the rate up. And this is not just true of the Beast banner. If we look at the Moon Cancer one, this one is pretty definitively shown, at least with the graph they have here. With the Beast one, I could definitely see them at least having their own banners. That's still perfectly fine. But this is a little bit ridiculous because this, they make it pretty clear. They outline the ones in gray that are going to be sharing the banner. And this is kind of devious. You know, you have original Summer BB, CL, and Summer Kiara all sharing a rate up versus the other banner being Janako, Archetype Earth, and the new Summer BB, you know, the golden BB one. And I mean, this at this point is just not even worth rolling for at this point. Like, your odds are better of just going on a GSSR or something. Because at least in a GSSR, you're looking at maybe, what, a 1 in 4 chance, a 25% chance of getting the character you want. Maybe it's a 33% chance if you're really lucky. Maybe you're going for someone like Archetype Earth and she ends up on a 1 in 3 banner. That could be really good. You could get a little unlucky and it's a 1 in 5, which is only a 20% chance. And then there is the off like 1 in 6, and I think the worst one we had is like a 1 in 8 chance, like for a really loaded GSSR. But still, you know, those are generally going to be better, because even if it was a 10 character GSSR, that's a 10% chance of getting that character. That's still better than doing the roll on a banner that has a 0.8% chance of getting them or whatever, or however much worse it gets now whenever you split the 3 5-stars rate up between the 3 of them on a singleton banner. So for Moon Cancers, it's almost like, oh, I'm a huge fan of X character over here, you know, I'm really hoping that I'm going to get them. At that point, it's like, I'm sorry, little buddy, you might as well just save up for the Destiny Order Summon and for the GSSR, because you're going to have a way easier shot at grabbing them. But again, at least some of these Moon Cancer characters haven't been treated like the Beast ones, where if they do get shafted on this rate up that they get, you know, once every blue moon, at the very least, these guys maybe are not as popular as some of those Beast characters. They're not held in as much exclusivity. You know, at least somebody like CL and Golden BB are technically summer characters alongside main story characters. So if they do a road to the end of part 2 or whatever, road to the end of Ordeal stall, you'll probably see a banner where these guys come back. Or if they're doing a summer event, these guys will probably get an additional rate up during one of those summers. You know, you can kind of count on them to get those. So at the very least, them getting shafted, unlike say the Beast characters, you are more likely to see, you know, them make a return or something along those lines. Pretenders is just absolutely devious, but this is something you probably should have expected, where they take, you know, Proto Merlin, they kind of put her on her own banner. They're like, but what if we put Oberon next to Phantasmoon over there? Which, on the one hand, I'm very happy that they are letting Phantasmoon get a rate up, because Phantasmoon came out for the last week of the year. And so, for me personally, I was like, you know, I could see them not giving her a rate up because she is really strong. It is literally just gamer, girl, streamer, Archetype Earth, which is super based. But then again, you know, they could get a little bit more loose with, well, technically her banner went until the new year, so it ran for like 30 seconds in the new year, so we're not counting that one. But thankfully they did throw her up there, because I thought they would let it do that. But, you know, it's a gacha company. You know, if they were going to do something a little bit shady, you know, I wouldn't put it past them to do that. But again, it's putting somebody like Oberon that is very, I don't want to say necessary, but feels necessary if you want to make your life a lot easier going into stuff specifically like 90++ nodes, or even some advanced quests. If you're trying to finish those out, just bringing a guy that can give your dudes a big damage there while you finish out a fight, as well as a 70% battery, is always going to be very, very useful. But I kind of just wanted to talk about it, just because when I saw this yesterday while I was streaming, which, hey, the link is down in the description down below. You can either watch it here on the YouTube or over there on the Twitch, depending on which live stream experience you like a little bit better. But when that was brought to my attention, that was quite annoying, because even though the way that these read, especially for people like the Beast class banners, they say that the SSR banners will be running simultaneously. So that sounds like there's 2 different banners running side by side, which is fine. But then there are some of them, excluding the Beast ones, that do seem like they have their own banners. The Pretender and the Moon Cancer ones are rather annoying, because they are just throwing a bunch of them on the same banner, which makes it really hard for you to pull. And the whole point of these banners is you can get a character that you want to make your grand class character. You know, we bring everybody back, that way you can make them your grand whatever class character you're picking. But then again, it could also be a very meta thing, not in the terms of how good they are, but in an overall meta for the game, where if they make these characters harder to pull, less people will say have somebody like, you know, Oberon as their grand extra class servant, if that is something that they're going to allow us to do. And maybe they do want that to be a little bit more rare. Maybe they do want some of these more rare hype characters to have less granded stats, I guess, or like stats, and like when they do the anniversary thing when they're going to show these are the most popular grand characters, these are the most granded characters by blah 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 people. Maybe that is something that they're trying to kind of mitigate in a way, which I kind of just want to get some thoughts from the community, right? So just to kind of clarify, because we've been all over the place talking about potential things that might happen and what's actually happening. So the Beast banners do look like they're running side by side with one another, but the Moon Cancer and the Pretender ones are split into shared rate-ups between the different characters, which is a bit annoying if you're going for those specifically. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, or if I misunderstood anything in here, because again, I've more so been focusing on the NA lottery, so I think I've kind of like looked over, got all the cursory information, got it ready for this video. But it is possible that somebody in the comments will be like, ZTL, you are a big, stupid, dumb idiot. Actually, every single one of these characters is going on rate up at the very same time, which is definitely not the case because we at least have the dates. So we do know that these are being spaced out, you know, by week or whatever. With the Moon Cancer starting whenever the current Assassin ones go down, and then, you know, Pretenders will follow that, and then Beast will follow that. But it's also just something I want to kind of gauge for the community, see where everybody is at, see if people really do care about it. I mean, for me, it's kind of annoying because I'm going to be seeing a lot of people going on these banners and being like, I got Giga shafted, I was just trying to get the original Summer BB, and then sure, while CL is really good, that's not who I wanted, right? Because that is a very real factor in the game. You, the person watching this video, might say, well, you got the better character, shouldn't you be happy? But you would be surprised at how many times in a live stream, in a Twitter post, in a YouTube comment, even in Discords, I will see people pull a character that is good, but they're sad because that's not the character that they wanted, right? And I mean, this even extends to very strong characters. People like Oberon, your Koyan Skies, even your Castorias, where people are like, oh no, I'm like trying to challenge myself, or I just don't really like this character style of gameplay, or this character makes my game a little too easy, and I want the challenge of trying to figure these things out. So you would be surprised at how like shocked and disappointed people will be when pulling for a character if they don't get what they want. I mean, go figure. If I want the Lancer Skahawk, but she's sharing a rate up with Scotty, and I get Scotty, but I really wanted Lancer Skahawk, yeah, that other character is really good, but it's not exactly what I was spending the same quartz that I had saved up for, or even worse, the same quartz that I had bought on, right? But then again, this gets into the nature of, you know, gacha games and gambling and all that fun stuff, and that's not really the topic of this video. We could always do that. That would actually be a really interesting Patreon video, so you could also peep that down in the description down below. Maybe you'll see that hitting your Patreon sub feeds if you're a lucky member to be a part of that. But again, we'd just like to get some, you know, thoughts from the community. I'd like to see where people are at on this one, because I think it definitely could be worse. But then again, it might be me being a little too charitable to them, because I do see a lot of the hard work that Lesengal is trying to do in trying to make sure that there is always something to do, at least on JP. I'm not saying it's perfect, but they are at least trying, you know, with the amount of, like, say, servant buffs that they're trying to throw out there, and trying to make sure that there's always something to be doing. Although that does kind of get into FGO versus other games, whereas, you know, for a game like Dokkan or Arknights, you know, there's always like some high difficulty stuff for you to go do, or there's a bunch of different game modes where we don't really have that on FGO. But that could be something we could thankfully get, you know, during the anniversary. You know, maybe I can make a video talking about that. What if there was just like a weekly Grail front you were always able to do? That would just be kind of nice. It might not be your favorite, but it's at least something guaranteed to do every single week, in addition to other content that we're getting. So enough yapping for me at the very end of the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and if any of those other video topics sounded intriguing to you, let me know that in the comment section down below as well. I love yapping about this game. I mean, it's the primary game that we cover on this channel, so go figure, I would like to yap about it. So let me know that in the comments, and with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and stop yapping, get out of here, and you guys have yourselves a nice rest of your day. Peace, late guy.